Well, hey there, guys. I'm Axel the Beast, and this is the Curiosity Shop, the ZeldaDungeon.net video mailbag where I answer your Zelda questions. And in honor of how many copies of the same Volvagia question I've gotten over this week, this is officially the FireBag. And also in honor of that, I'm drinking lava through a plastic straw. Starting off with the question of honor, Superlink asks, in Ocarina of Time, Darunia says that Volvagia is an ancient dragon. Because of this, do you think Volvagia will appear in Skyward Sword? I think it's a possibility. I mean, I think that, you know, he's, I always considered him kind of like, of all the, like, the deities of Ocarina of Time, you know, the Deku Tree, Lord Jabu Jabu, I considered Volvagia to be kind of the Goron's deity. I know this is not correct in any sense, but it's my mental association on the matter, and I think it's kind of appropriate, because they didn't have a deity. Of all the, you know, I just think it kind of fits, and, it might be partially based on the fact that there was a red dragon deity in the Wind Waker with a V name, that was Volu, but that's a totally unrelated dragon. Either way, I think the possibility of him appearing in Skyward Sword is somewhat increased because he's kind of, he is this old creature and he kind of relates to the deities a little bit vaguely, but at the same time I think there's almost a 50-50 chance that he will or he won't, you know, because I just don't know if Nintendo is going to decide to do that. But I think it would be awesome. There's a lot they could do with that story, but for him to appear, the Gorons would pretty much have to, and the Mogmais seem like they might be replacing the Gorons, so I don't really know. I'd say 50-50. RoboTortoise asks, what's the difference between the words temple and dungeon, if any? This is probably brought on by me complaining about this last mailbag, people referring to dungeons as temples in the Zelda series. That's a pet peeve of mine. But basically, temple is a term used to describe what, well, a lot of the areas in the Zelda games are temples. I mean, you have the Fire Temple, the Water Temple, etc., the Temple of Time. These are areas in the world. The term dungeon is like a game design term that refers to, you know, areas where you usually go underground, not always, but usually, and you usually, you know, you solve puzzles, you fight monsters, you find treasure. I think it basically derives from, like, old pen and paper RPGs, but I'm not completely sure of that. And basically, those areas in the Zelda games are dungeons. That's the official gameplay term. The item is even called Dungeon Map. You know, this compass tells you where all the chests are in the dungeon. But within the world, many of the dungeons are temples, though not all of them. Some of them are not temples at all, like the City in the Sky, or Arbiter's Grounds, which was a prison. But some are temples, but they're still dungeons. Dungeon is the universal term. Some of them are temples. Demon the Kid asks, what is your favorite Zelda game commercial in any region? This is a great question because there's a lot of awesome, odd, quirky, or just funny, and even creepy in the case of Majora's Mask, video commercials for the Zelda games, and they differ depending on if it's America or Japan or possibly other countries. I'd probably say I have to pick the Wind Waker's US commercial. It's that commercial where there's this girl in a hood and she's talking in the most epic fashion about the adventure Link goes through in the Wind Waker, and it's just an amazing commercial, and I think it sets up the game's epicness so well. And, but I think another runner-up would be the, I think it was the US Spirit Tracks commercial where the guy's on the train and he like gets like sucked, he's like plays the, there's like an old guy and he plays the flute and weird stuff happens. That's probably a runner-up for me. Be sure to tell me your guys' favorite commercial in the comments. MW7 asks, you mentioned in the Skyward School video that you think many of the items will be obtained early in the game, perhaps even at the start. Do you think that this means the dungeons will not revolve around a single item, such as the Temple of Time and Twilight Princess and many early game dungeons in other games, but rather require a variety of different items for puzzle solving, such as in the Stone Tower Temple in Majora's Mask and the Spirit Temple in Ocarina of Time? All I can say to that is I hope so. If you watch that video, you'll know my opinion that maybe we'll see these items at the beginning. But as for if that means the dungeons will be designed that much better, that they will use a variety of items, I can't say for sure. But I really hope so, because there's nothing but benefits. And I want to think that that's the good direction they're taking with Skyward Sword. But there's still a possibility that you're going to get upgrades for a specific item in the dungeon, and the dungeon will still be themed after that item, so they may not change it at all. So, we'll see. Shin Hadoken asks, what do you think of the apparent relationship developing between Zelda and Link and Skyward Sword? Do you approve or disapprove? What about the impact it will have on the series? Well, to start off, I don't think it's going to have any impact on the series, really. Link and Zelda's relationship has always differed from game to game, but generally they've always been pretty friendly, so I don't think that's going to change. It's just going to be the same thing as always. Differs from game to game, they'll probably be close, you know, they'll get along, etc. As for this relationship, it's kind of like starting to vaguely seem like it may be more of a obviously romantic relationship than in other Zelda games. And, you know, I don't know what I think about that because, well, I do know what I think about that, but in previous games in the series, I've never been a fan of the Link and Zelda pairing, but in this game, it does have its appeal, and I think it'll be better if they do that in this game. That said, I'm not sure if that's what they're going for, and they're probably going to make it somewhat left to the player to figure out. But at the very least, it seems like they're very close friends, and I think that's a good story for the kind of school theme they got going on, and for him, you know, searching for her and trying to save her from Girahim or whoever else is involved in her capture. King of Red Lion asks, in Ocarina of Time, why does Navi leave you at the end? My best guess is probably something like her mission was done, and she had to leave you for one reason or another. Fairy rules, I don't know. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but there's probably some kind of underlying, never-to-be-explained reason for it. Or maybe she never really liked Link, and she was only following him because the Deku Tree told her to. I don't know. It didn't make a lot of sense to me, but it's not like the biggest confusing issue in the series, so I don't think a lot about it. I don't know. Furret asks, does the owl in Link's Awakening have anything to do with the owl in Ocarina of Time? Not a dang thing, because the owl in Link's Awakening, and I forget exactly what it was, I don't quite remember, but it was something like he was made by the Windfish, or he was part of the Windfish, or he was part of the Windfish's dream, but an important part designed to help the hero or something. I believe that was like his strict purpose. He was part of the dream, part of the Windfish. He was related to that. Whereas in Ocarina of Time, a gossip stone will tell you that Kepora, the owl, is actually the reincarnation of an ancient sage. And yes, before you ask, there is speculation he will appear in Skyward Sword as that ancient sage. It's hard to say if he will or not, but that's a strong possibility, I guess. So there you go. ZeldaFan95 asks, in what I have seen of Skyward Sword, there is a bluish bar under the health. Do you think it's magic or something else? If so, what do you think it is? We actually know what that is. That's the shield meter. It's essentially a durability, you know, like hit points for your shield. The more hits your shield takes, the more of that it loses and it will break, and you'll have to buy more shields and etc. Different shields have different durabilities, and I'm sure they're going to play around with this quite a bit. It actually sounds pretty interesting. It almost adds a bit of an RPG element, like in games like Diablo, where you have to constantly repair your equipment or else they'll break. And I think it will add an extra layer of challenge in that you're going to have to be dodging enemies or your shields are going to be breaking on you. I think it will, I think it's a good system. I think it'll be interesting to see. Juicy J asks, what are your thoughts on Skyward Sword's new stamina meter? And for those who don't realize this, quick clarification, this is a different meter than the shield meter, and it replenishes really quickly, but basically it's expended by almost every possible action you can take other than just walking or standing. And to answer your question, I think it's a really good idea because the whole thing that every action consumes this makes it a little more challenging how you're going to have to think a little more carefully about what actions you're going to take, because you're going to quickly, if you do too many things in a row, and in other games you can really just do a bunch of crazy stuff in quick succession with no consequence, and this will make you think a little bit about what actions you're going to take in battle or when solving puzzles to get things done efficiently and survive. It'll make things more challenging, and I think the quick replenishing of it is going to make it not annoying, so I think it's great. I think it's nothing but pros. Christian Bravo asks, what do you think Nintendo will do with the Zelda series with the Wii U's controller? I honestly don't know, and I can pretty much guarantee you no one's going to be able to tell you until Nintendo tells us. A part of me wants them to not do anything in particular because I want to see Skyward Sword's Wii Motion Plus controls again since the Wii U is compatible with, the Wii controller. But at the same time, they're probably going to do something crazy with the new Wii U controller, and the demo that they showed with Zelda, which isn't going to be a real game probably, showed like inventory and map management with the Wii U controller, but I think it was Miyamoto who said that he wants to do something a lot more interesting than that. So I think we're going to see something insane and crazy, but I can't say what it is, or it might be a combination of things. I really don't know what Nintendo's going to do. They always surprise us. I just hope it's something that's in keeping with the kind of Zelda formula we're used to, and it doesn't completely redefine everything we're familiar with, because I kind of like what we're familiar with, I just like innovation on it. Alright guys, that's it for this time. Be sure to send all your questions to the contact page or email address in the description, and I'll see you guys later.